Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're completely reframing a struggle that millions of us face literally every single day. If you've ever felt that pit of guilt for skipping a workout, or if you're staring at a gym membership tag on your keys that's basically just gathering dust right now, you are absolutely going to want to pay close attention. We are unpacking the hidden psychological barriers keeping so many of us away from the gym, and what we'll discover is that your persistent struggle, it might not be a lack of discipline at all. Instead, as we'll see, it's very likely a deep, fundamental environmental mismatch. So let's just dive right into it. Why do we actually skip the gym? I mean, when we inevitably bail on our workouts, what's the story we tell ourselves? We say, I'm way too tired, or work was just a nightmare today, or I'm kind of just not feeling it. We blame our schedules or our physical energy, but actually scratch that. The research we're looking at today reveals that we are often completely unaware of the invisible psychological processes that are actually dictating our behavior. It's not the clock, it's definitely not the fatigue. Our source material hits the nail right on the head here. The anxiety is running underneath the surface, producing behavior without announcing itself. Think about that for a second. For a massive chunk of persistent gym avoiders, skipping your workout has absolutely nothing to do with laziness. It's a defense mechanism. It's about protecting yourself from the psychological toll of the commercial gym environment. Millions of people are literally making choices about their physical health based on a mental process they haven't even identified yet.
Let's move to Section 1, the invisible barrier, social evaluation anxiety.
Now, this isn't just some vague feeling, right? It's a highly measurable scientific phenomenon. Sports psychology has consistently documented this thing called social evaluation anxiety. And it's wild. Studies show that even top-tier professional athletes literally perform identical tasks less effectively in front of spectators compared to when they're alone. Simply believing you are being watched fundamentally changes your internal experience of effort. The observation alters your performance before you even rack the bar for your first rep. And that brings us to a really specific, well-documented subset of this called social physique anxiety, or SPA for short. This is the acute fear that other people are critically evaluating your body or your physical performance. Research published in PMC found something totally crucial about this. When you take someone with a meaningful level of SPA and drop them into a commercial gym at peak hour, it doesn't just make them a little uncomfortable. No, it actively and directly reduces how often they show up. It drives them away. So this is exactly where a home setup becomes an absolute game changer. It completely neutralizes the anxiety. You totally remove that constant social evaluation. There's no one around to judge the weight you're lifting. No one to give you a side eye if your form gets a little shaky on that final set. Removing the social mirror doesn't just make training a bit more chill. For those struggling with persistent gym avoidance, removing the audience leaves only the work itself. It makes consistent training possible in a way that public spaces simply are not.
Section 2, personality traits and the need for privacy.
There's this fascinating 2025 study out of University College London by Dr. Flaminia Ronca and her colleagues that looked at 132 participants over an 8-week program. They found that individuals scoring high in neuroticism, meaning they have a bit higher emotional sensitivity and are more prone to anxiety, actively preferred completely private workout conditions. Get this, they didn't even want their heart rates tracked. They demanded space and independence. But look at the outcome here. These exact same people experienced the most significant reduction in stress of any group tested. So, the big takeaway here? The folks who absolutely need private training conditions the most are exactly the ones who benefit from them the most. Seeking privacy isn't hiding from a challenge, and it's definitely not the coward's way out, no matter what some gym bros might claim online. Privacy is actually the required condition for their training to deliver its full psychological return. That deep, profound stress relief.
All right, Section 3, the motivation dichotomy. Let's break this down.
To really get why the environment matters, we're basically looking at two completely different beasts here, drawing on Deci and Ryan's self-determination theory. On one side, we have autonomous motivation. This is a pure internal drive. You do it because it aligns with your genuine values. On the other side, controlled motivation. This relies heavily on external pressure, social expectations, outside validation, basically doing things to be seen doing them.
Think about how a commercial gym is actually built. It is structurally designed to amplify controlled motivation. It's literally built around mirrors and crowds. It establishes this unspoken hierarchy, a ranking of bodies and weights. It essentially rewards fitness as a performance for others. The trap here is that if your motivation is controlled, your adherence to working out is only going to last as long as you have an audience to perform for. But flip that around.
The home trainer? They operate on deep, autonomous motivation. When you carve out a space in your freezing garage or your cramped spare bedroom, you can't show off to an empty room, right? You aren't lifting for applause. Building a home gym is an identity statement written in iron and floor space. It proves, without a doubt, that your discipline does not depend on an audience to keep it alive.
Which brings us to Section 4, the honest paradox, the failure mode of home gyms. We really need a reality check here. Let's walk through what the source material calls the frictionless trap. 1. Nobody is expecting you to show up. 2. Nobody notices if you skip. 3. The friction of non-participation drops to absolutely zero. Because there is literally zero social friction to bailing on a home workout. The very conditions that make it perfect for the highly driven person make it structurally invisible for the wrong person.
And here is a pretty hard truth straight from the text. The space will not generate the identity. It will only reflect the identity that was already there. If you go out and buy expensive equipment hoping the room itself will magically spawn your discipline, it's just going to gather dust. I guarantee it. The home gym only works if genuine, autonomous motivation is already locked in. It's evidence of who you already are, not a magic pill for who you want to be. Finally, Section 5. Optimizing your psychological environment.
So where does this leave the persistent gym avoider who really does want to build a lasting habit? Well, it leaves us with an incredibly empowering concept. Matching your physical environment to your precise psychology is an optimization, it is not a compromise. We have got to stop viewing home workouts as the lazy alternative, recognizing that stepping away from that social mirror is exactly what allows for a richer, much more productive internal experience of training is a massive paradigm shift.
When you literally strip away the commute, the crowded locker rooms, and that heavy burden of social evaluation anxiety, you completely eliminate corrosive comparison. You redirect your focus entirely inward, right toward the process itself. You're removing every single practical obstacle between your intention and your action. And when you finally clear the runway like that, exercise can transform from an occasional anxiety-inducing nightmare into a daily, sustainable, and actually enjoyable habit.
As we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. Are you failing to exercise because you actually lack discipline? Or simply because you are trained to train in the completely wrong psychological environment? Maybe your persistent struggle with consistency isn't a failure of your willpower at all. Perhaps it's just a psychological signal, loud and clear, that it is finally time to build a space where no one is watching. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it completely changes how you look at your next workout.